Boom. All right. And it says that we're live right now. So, all right, everyone, we've got Whit Cook on tonight. He is running for the Tooele County Commissioner. Is it District 5?
Council.
Or Tooele County Council.
Yep. It's been
District
changed to
5.
council. Yeah, District 5.
All right.
And there's 5 people on that council, correct?
Correct.
So you're running for the end seat. You'll sit on the edge.
I guess so.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's good.
Well, I haven't quite figured out that yet. It's not important enough for me to ask, but yeah. I've noticed that Tom Tripp, who currently serves on seat 5, he's a little more towards the middle. So,
I wonder if they sit him in order of seniority so that your senior man's in the middle, because that tends to be the one who runs the proceedings, and then they filter you out to the edge from there, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Jared Hamner. He's the chairman of the council.
Oh,
right
okay.
Now. He's the chair, and so the vice chair would be Scott Wardle, and so he's right next to him. When you're looking up at the stand, he's off to the right, and then it goes Tom Tripp, and then
Oh, okay. So
Kendall
it
Thomas.
might.
You got to
be-
assign seats.
Yeah.
You sit where your name placard is placed.
Right.
I don't know. You mess with people, go in and make a deal with someone to swap, and really confuse them.
You ruined the surprise. That was my
media.
plan for first day.
I like it. Oh, yeah, that's what you're running for, to pull something like that off. But anyways,
Yep.
let's welcome you to the show. You're retired military, correct?
I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're also you manage the youth symphony.
So I'm on the board of directors for the Youth Symphony.
Bring
here
that
at local-
mic right in front of your mouth. Yeah,
the
just
Tooele.
so that your face is.
Okay.
You learn
Here we
to
go.
talk
I'll go
around
over
the
here.
mic. Yeah.
Yeah, Tooele Valley Youth Symphony. And they're actually currently hosted by Excelsior Academy.
Ooh.
And I am one of the board of directors on there. So I take care of a lot of the systems admin. I also am the marketing director as well as fundraising.
So you
director.
thought you were retired and then got a voluntary job?
I've heard this from a lot of other people too. Just when you retire, your time still really isn't your own, whether it's family that pulls you away or other organizations that pull you away. Plus, it's good just to stay involved so that you don't atrophy.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot from the older guys, and I've noticed it when I first did decide to finally just lay back and hang out with the family and not do anything. I noticed it. So if I want to stay sharp, obviously it's a good thing to stay involved anyway, right? In good causes. But yeah, just to stay sharp too and make a difference. I mean, that's really where a lot of my motivation is at nowadays. It's just to make a difference.
You're pretty young to be retired, though, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I'm not quite 40. I won't tell you exactly how old I am, but yeah.
No, that's that military retirement, that 20-year.
Yeah, I got hurt in the military, and so that helps out with the retirement. You know, I've done some pretty cool stuff. You know, where I've been able to hone in on some life skills, and you know, my wife, she decided to go ahead and start working, and I support her in that. You know, she wants to excel vocationally. You know, who am I to say no? You know, it was a family decision, and she doesn't have to. She doesn't have to, but I support her in it.
What does she do for work?
So she is a recruiter. She's a headhunter for physicians. Currently, she is recruiting occupational medicine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
No. She switched from Ahmed. Who is it? What takes care of cancer patients? I forget the name of the specialty.
Oncology?
Oncology.
Yeah. So she's and then she went to oncology, and now she's moved on to radiation oncology. So she works with radiation oncologists, and you have to have a pretty specific skill set. You have to know how to talk with people and so on. And so she's really good. She is really good at what she does.
Good.
And so I support her in it. So we kind of tag team it at home as parents, you know, try to raise the kids together.
And that's a good thing. And you're also involved in the community youth, which
I am.
Helps out a lot. And, you know, I don't know. All those are excellent things,
Right.
if you ask me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And just a couple of other things out there too. But, I try to stay involved. Yeah.
I've heard about that atrophied after retirement. There's always that, I guess, trope that Japanese people live longer and it's the rice and fish diet. But a couple of studies that looked into that was that as they age, they continue to stay, as you would say, vocationally involved. The mothers or the grandmothers tend to be more involved in the rearing of the grandchildren, and the old men still continue to kind of mentor youth, people who are learning a trade, and they stay involved that way.
I believe it.
Yeah. The what do they call it? The ikigai mentality they have over there. It's finding your perfection, finding your skill.
Well, it's because the mother and the father have to work 2 jobs, and
I don't know.
Food on the table.
They might have to in Japan. They may not. That I don't know that in depth, but it's their culture is the way they're more full family culture than we are over here. Not as much nuclear centric. So that might be one of the reasons.
And I've noticed that in my own family too. If I could speak personally, my mother's had a really hard life. Not all by, a lot of it was by choice, and therefore I grew up in a different lifestyle and pretty rough lifestyle. And she called me up just recently, back in October, and she asked for some help. And we had a discussion. We had to talk about some things, talk some things through, and we decided that I was waiting for that day. I was waiting for that day to really have my mother back in my life, and now she, we opened our door to her. She's doing a lot better now. And kind of like how you're saying about the older generation in Japan, I can attest to that. I mean, she is leaps and bounds. It's only been since November since she's moved in, and over just the few months that she's been here, she's done a lot. And she's a grandma now, and she's taking care of the kids, and she's never really had that before. But yeah, personally speaking, yeah, it's a good situation with families.
So she's finding maybe a second life.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
A restart.
That's out. And what better to do that than around, recapturing your relationship with your son and your grandkids. I mean, that's.
Yeah. And there's a lot of forgiveness involved too. There's a lot of, understanding and yeah. I'll just leave it at that.
That's outstanding.
Absolutely love to have her back and to see her doing so well now.
That is outstanding. And that's outstanding. You're able to offer that opportunity to her.
I consider it. Yeah. I consider it a blessing to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, let's get on to the politics.
Okay.
What's your reason for wanting to run to counsel the county?
To rule the world, right? Isn't that everybody's? No, so we just got done talking about it. I don't need to do this. I don't have to do it. I don't have this burning sensation to get a title or to, I don't know, fulfill some neediness within me. I'm not doing it to prove it to anybody or even to myself. It's just an act of service is really what it is. And I think that I have the skill sets to really fit into a role like this. Plus I'm being service oriented. This type of job where you have to work full-time hours for part-time pay, really requires somebody such as myself who has a lot of time and not the need for resources. I'm already set in that regard. It really streams out to individuals who are like myself who can do that. I think that's also my time working in the county or with the county for the county restructure, which for those that don't know, a little over a year ago, we did change our form of government, for those who don't know. It has been all over in the news over a few years. Back in 2017, late
We
2000.
went to, wasn't it county manager ran government with council?
I'm sure that you have more questions. We could talk a little bit more about that, but go back to your original question. What's the motivation behind it and why I want to do this? I think that I shouldn't say I think I did. I learned a lot about the county. I learned a lot about our specific county. And while I was a part of the restructure process, I traveled the entire state. I got to see leaders within those counties around the state. I got to interview them. I got to see what worked, what didn't work. And I found a real interest in county politics. And one of the great things that I learned is that different county structures are required because one county structure is needed in one part of the state and it works for them. But it's completely different in another part of the state. And so another type of structure works for them. And I think that now that we've gone through this process, I like what we have. It's really good.
I haven't had the opportunity to study your opponents for this race, but are your opponents in the same position that you are, where they have this free time, or are they balancing a career and asking for this position at the same time?
Right. I haven't looked too much into there's a libertarian who signed up for the job, who declared candidacy. But there is another Republican opponent. He and I know each other just briefly from the community. From what I know of him, I like him. I think he feels the same way. I think the feeling is mutual. Great guy from the couple of times that we've rubbed shoulders. And I hear his wife is an amazing lady. As far as his position, though, his financial position, I think I know he has, similar to me, he has a degree in HR, and he does currently work, as far as I know. So I believe that that's the case, that he would juggle, which is similar to a few of our county councilmen that currently serve. And actually, that's one of my points that I really drive home with people, is that I have the time. Not only do I have the time, I have the talents, and I have the desire. I'm full of energy, and it's I have that desire to serve, and in that capacity and the ability to do so. So I think that's a real edge that I do have in all of those regards.
I think it's a huge edge. I mean, especially if you're not financially stressed. That means you can make decisions without that kind of a corruption process playing out in the mind when you're trying to juggle between two
and
different
not
occupations.
vocationally stressed.
Yeah.
They could lean on you to take on an extra project and things like that, to research something new.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know this, but serving on a county council, there obviously you serve in the county capacity, right? You serve in it's a part-time role in this regard, as we have things currently structured. Part-time service at the county. But again, a lot of people don't know that county leaders actually serve on boards and advisory committees around the state, as well as locally. And it's that type of service that I would really, really be able to do, that our other current county councilmen can't do. I know that Jared Hamner, who's the chairman, Scott Wardle, who's the vice chair, and Ty Hoffman, they do, as far as I know, as far as I have been told, and they do have full-time jobs. They do work. The only two that are really retired are Kendall Thomas as well as Tom Tripp. And Tom Tripp is the one that I'm looking to replace. He's not seeking re-election.
And I think Kendall Thomas has like an ice cream business or something, because he was passing out free ice cream cones when he was running. And it was out of one of his ice cream trailers. So he must have some sort of a side business going, or he's working a business. So, I mean, the guy stays busy.
I don't dive too much into it. Like I said,
Yeah.
even my competition, the current county councilmen, I haven't dove too much into it. But as far as I know, there are two that are retired and have a lot of time on their hands, whether they have a side business or not. As I get to know them better, maybe I'll figure stuff like that out on a personal level. But Kendall and Tom both have a lot of time, and they're the ones that really are able to represent us outside of the county. At least they have the time to do so, and they work full time, even though they only have a part-time job and they're only receiving part-time pay. A lot like myself, they put in a lot of time into this county, and all of them do. It's just the other three, they do have other things to worry about.
They don't have the same ability as the two retired do, which
Right.
makes sense.
Right. Which also pulls into question the how fair that is.
What do you mean by that?
Well, how fair it is to the individual that's serving in the council seat. I mean, part-time work for part-time pay, but some of them are actually putting in full-time work. So is it really fair to them? And also, is it fair to the county?
Well,
It is a service.
my personal feeling is you ran and you volunteered to be a public servant.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to say that they should get more or less, but
Oh no, I'm not talking about the pay. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about fair to the county in the sense of not being represented, as I was talking about on the state scale, on the broader perspective.
I guess
it's not really
weighed against possibilities. It's not fair, but weighed against what would be listed as the average, it would be fair. But
right.
Weighed against the possibilities on someone who has more free time, obviously it wouldn't be fair.
And if Tooele County could somehow grow and prosper, we could afford to do more government programs where we can have higher amounts of representation. But Tooele County is a poor county, and it charges high prices. I mean, like even our food out here is expensive, and it's not that great quality. But I mean,
also we're in that magic gray area where we can't attract any of the big box stores like a Costco or a Sam's Club. We can't. We have a harder time just because we're in that gray area where we can attract a McDonald's, but we're not going to attract a sit-down franchise, a Red Lobster. We're not big enough yet, and frankly, we're too close to Salt Lake.
Yeah, and I don't know that a lot of people want to get to that point either. I know that
I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people probably don't. So
right.
That's one of those ever dividing questions that honestly the answer you get today will shift next week, where it has to do with people's stomach and desires. It's
a problem that I get asked about a lot.
Yeah.
As far as my views as if we should grow or how we should grow, can we stop the growth? I mean, I'm pretty sure we could talk a little bit more about that, but the growth, I moved here 7 years ago thinking that I was going to get a small town. That's what I thought. Honestly, we moved out here for the French program. So we're in Grantsville.
Yeah.
The French program.
The immersion, the school immersion.
Dual language immersion. Yes. We have multiple schools out here in the school district.
Yeah. I do like that our school district does offer that. We have French, German, and
Russian, Mandarin.
Yeah, Russian and Mandarin.
Portuguese.
Oh, we have Portuguese as well.
I believe we have Portuguese too as well. Yes.
Well, I know someone who could probably aid in being an instructor. I just don't know if you want to see how the kids are doing when they get out of school. No, she would actually do excellent at that.
I know the teachers are vetted very carefully.
Yeah, no, we have it'd be
my wife is
Dave's
Brazilian.
Wife is Brazilian.
Oh, okay.
So she's very very fluent in Portuguese. But no, the I've met most of the French teachers just for circumstances of family relations and stuff, and Yeah, no, they've all been excellent. Very nice teachers. Very, it's very interesting, and
it's really hard on our community when they leave too.
It is. They tend to build bonds with
Yes.
the community quite
How
well.
how long do they stay? What are their tours?
Well, tours, like their military
tours of duty?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Right.
stay. It depends on their visa. I know France has some requirements to where the teachers have to go back to France to be there physically for a certain time frame.
They don't want them to experience freedom too long. I
I-
get it. You get bad ideas.
I'm not
You
gonna
know,
speak to
Once
that.
upon a time, an American went over to France and kicked off a revolution that brought the guillotine about and stuff. So I understand France's desires to not have too much rabble rousing and such as that.
We're as a community, we are very, very fortunate to have the DLI program in general.
Oh yeah.
And as a city, Grantsville, we are very fortunate to have the French program as well as the French teachers. I mean, they are an extreme asset
Yeah,
to our community.
I've even heard stories, as everyone's heard. I've often been, and maybe unfairly, but I've been kind of hard on our education system over here, and I've heard that that the teachers that come over with this immersion program do not fall into any of those traps. They are serious academics. They don't have any activist bones in them. It's academics are pretty supreme, and I think that is an excellent trait. And maybe it's just us that's feeling this on the global stage. I have a feeling Great Britain is as well, but we seem to have our teachers seem to amplify the desire for activism, and sometimes I think it shadows academics.
Yeah, and federally speaking, across the country. Yeah,
I think it bleeds into your basic schools, and it's also instructed through the colleges where they gain their teacher's degrees.
yeah. For the most part, from what I've seen, we're well insulated from that. I know that there have been instances. There have been a couple of things, but I'm grateful to have such a wonderful place like Tooele County and Tooele Valley to live in, where we are. It's a bastion of hope. We still have the one-offs. We still have experiences with stuff like that you're talking about.
I think you can't avoid it regardless.
Right. But for the most part, we really are. We are isolated in that sense. We have a very strong value structure that we really hold on to.
I'd like to think of it more as protected than isolated. I mean,
Yeah,
like you
that's a
said,
better
our
word.
value system is shielding us from a lot of that.
And
Thank you.
yeah, that comes from probably the faith that is, the faith that's dominant here, and also the size. We went to the size, and maybe we should go back to that about the growth. How do you restrict growth yet still offer opportunity?
Okay, so great question. Again, that's the one that I get the most of. That and water, and I think that they're intertwined. They really are, because the more we grow, the more water we take up,
Yep.
and can we grow because of water,
Yep.
right? So, as far as the county is concerned, as far as unincorporated Tooele County, as a county councilman, that would be my primary objective. We would make ordinances and pass laws that would, they would be enacted over the unincorporated parts of Tooele County. The municipalities, and this is a lot of the reason why URTA recently broke off and they formed their own municipality. Same thing with Lake Point. That's why all municipalities are born, is because out of a desire to chart their own path. So the local municipalities, all the individual cities, do not really follow the county rules, right? I mean, we work together. There are relationships that are there, and there's cohesion that's there. But the county really is, unincorporated Tooele County really is its own entity. Tooele City is its own entity. Grantsville is its own entity. And now URTA and Lake Point, they've decided to be their own entities. Wendover, Stockton, they all chart their own paths. Even Vernon is incorporated.
It has been for quite a while too.
It has
Vernon
been.
is shockingly small for being incorporated.
What's the advantage, though? I mean, now you need a police department of your own, or to make a contract with someone else, you'll need a fire department. You'll need all these resources that you can't now use from, say, the county or whatever. What's the advantage?
It probably made a lot of sense for Vernon because of how far out they are.
Well, it might be
Because where would Vernon receive county fire department services from?
I don't know in the case of Vernon, but the advantage for Erta, I know, is they wanted to go to a different path than what the county wanted for them.
They wanted to keep
The 5-acre lots.
Yeah, 5-acre lots. They wanted to keep the rural lifestyle.
So what you're saying is you control your own zoning laws if you're incorporated.
Yeah, but then there's also the other side of the coin too, where you do need to start providing all of these services. And in order to provide the services, you need to start taxing your citizens. And if you don't have enough citizens or commercial property to actually bring in the tax base, you can't offer those services. So you're kind of stagnant. That's kind of where we're at right now with Erta. Erta residents, I completely support what they've done and where they're at with things. Right now, they're at the very early stages, the very beginning stages of charting their own path. And so the county and Erta just recently signed a contract stating that the county will continue to offer services to Erta, policing, fire, those sorts of snow plowing in the wintertime, those road services, those sorts of things, for 6 months. So that's and Erta, as far as I know, they don't have their own taxing authority quite yet, and so Tooele County, as a county, we're still helping them out with that process until they can completely transition. So it's kind of we're in a phase right now. We're in an area of where we're helping them as they get on their own 2 feet.
So Erta will probably stick with Tooele County until they figure out a contract, or
so we have a contract.
Well, until they figure out a contract that pulls them away, such as a contract where they're going to figure out a fire department of their own, or
well, not so much another contract. They would just break away from Tooele County.
But so the money that's going to the county now, once they get that aligned, then they'd say, okay, and can they break that away service by service and figure that out contracting through the county?
So that's so as one that's looking to serve on the county council, I'm willing to work with Erta. Do I think that 6 months is going to be enough time? I hope so, because the idea of incorporating is to incorporate. It's to chart your own destiny. And to take along all the responsibility that goes along with that. And so I hope that 6 months would be enough.
6 months to build a police station, a fire station. I mean, how long did it take to build our police station here in Tooele? I think it took more than 6 months. And I mean, well, it just doesn't seem.
Do they absolutely have to build those things? I don't know. I don't know what the requirements are. For law enforcement, they could possibly, rent a shed up there at Thompson's and buy an old
Padlock.
74.
Well, hopefully
Crown
it would be better
Vic.
than, if the first arrest would be a very interesting. Well, all they had was a shed.
Yeah, but I mean, even Grantsville, up until a year ago, if they arrested someone, they took them right out here to the sheriff's department. And that was a contract. The sheriff was contracted for holding. And I remember when the Grantsville police station, don't ask me how I know, the ins and outs of it. When I was in high school, was in where they've got the Head Start now. That was the Grantsville police station. That Head Start there across from the Taekwondo dojo.
Okay.
And that was a police station all through my childhood,
And I think it's advantageous to us to say, hey, Erta, we'll supply you with a fire department services, and then you just charge them a heck more than they originally were paying in taxes.
I guess it would be advantageous if you did that.
It would be a free market capitalist type system because, that's you got to make money where you can.
Except the downside to that is that money would be used by the county to grow that department, and then the minute IRTA figured out its own thing, the people of the county would be left recovering that bill.
And you have to think about the relationships that are there too. People before politics, people before price. Really, I support IRTA and what they've done. I like the idea of people from a certain area that collectively want to go a certain route. Hey, do it. I say
Definitely.
do it. And I'm willing to work with IRTA, assuming that I get in. I think that.
Right.
I think that, and Lake Point too. Lake Point's not quite at that point yet where they've elected their city leaders. That's on the ballot.
I wonder if Lake
cycle.
Point's taking notes on IRTA's. Maybe, if I was in Lake Point and this was an initiative I had and I wanted to maybe run for office in Lake Point, I would be at every IRTA city meeting and taking notes on where I would try to get ahead, because IRTA is definitely going to go through growing pains and feel pressure in certain areas
and start relationships now.
Yeah, and
too.
I would want to at least see where they're at, and I mean, I would be cheating over their shoulder, definitely, because I think that would only benefit you if you can stave off even 10% of the growing pains of incorporation.
Well, and working with the county too. So
definitely.
watching IRTA, watching the process, definitely learning from it. It was a little crazy. It was a little hairy there for a little while between the county and IRTA. And I don't like a lot of the things that happened. But I am glad that the dust has settled. I'm glad that we have an agreement, that we have a contract, that we're moving forward. And I hope that we can keep that perspective that we are moving forward. And that's another thing that I've been talking to people about a lot, is just the infighting that we've had as a county versus all the municipalities. And during my time here, so I moved here, like I said, 7 years ago. I said it a while ago, about 7 years ago, before the rush. And thinking that I was going to get a small town. And it really has been just a lot of infighting, just back and forth and lawsuits. And it's just...
Oh, the lawsuits are insane here.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough because you have such friction points that are important to both sides.
Are these lawsuits common in other areas, or does Tooele kind of stand out on that?
I wouldn't say Tooele County stands out among the rest. I think that we could, as individuals, though, if we, instead of comparing ourselves to other counties, we should compare ourselves to ourselves. And I think it's good to have that perspective, though, to look outward and see how often it happens. But I'm just talking about, again, with ourselves. There's definitely room for improvement. Just inter-municipality relationships that are there, county relationships with the municipalities. I think that there's a lot more that we can do. Interesting note, I went out to, so District 5 includes all of Grantsville, a little portion of IRTA, the western tip of IRTA, as well
Gunderson Acres into airport, maybe. Fazio, you get the egg farm?
No, I don't think so.
Dang, you missed out on the petunia smelling place. All right,
I think that's an IRTA. Yeah. I would have to look at the map though. Don't quote me on that. I'd have to
no, it is in IRTA.
But as all the way as District 5 goes all the way out to Wendover, all the way to the state line. And so last night, so this gets back to my point, interesting perspective here. I visited Wendover. I went to their city council meeting beforehand. I got to talk to some people out there, and since they're in my district, and one person of note would be the mayor. He's just an amazing guy, Dennis Sweat. He just absolutely loves his city. For those that don't know, Wendover is split by the state line, and so the Utah side is quite a bit smaller than the Nevada side.
I would imagine.
Yeah, because of what's allowed and what's not allowed.
So freedom to do more stuff creates a more dense population of people.
Well, it creates
versus-
more opportunity.
Yeah.
I guess
You know,
that's not where I was going with this, though.
well, I mean, if 30 meters away, you can have a casino and a bar, where you going to build the motel?
I can see how that could be appealing to some people. I'm not too much into casinos or bars, so
Okay,
that's
well,
a personal preference.
not just that, but with casinos and bars comes food, comes, just commerce. It's, you're not going to open a concert hall on the Utah side of the border out there.
Well, not anytime soon, at least. Something that's to note with that is that the airport is on the Utah side.
Yes, it is.
The airport is, I see, has a lot of potential out there. It has gone back and forth with the types of services that it offers. Another thing to mention about Wendover, though, and this is where I was going with this, is that going back to interconnection between the municipalities and the county, and municipalities with each other. The Wendover, I heard a lot out there about how a lot of times they feel left out.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right. And I got to thinking on my drive home, because it's a long drive home and I had a lot of time to think. We kind of feel that way sometimes too, compared to Salt Lake, don't we?
Oh, yeah. You always will.
Yeah. And so, I got to thinking that shouldn't be the case.
Well, how do we
I don't
feel compared to DC?
No, that's very true.
Yeah.
Very
We're
true.
just chattel for DC.
Yeah.
Not even a footnote in their thoughts.
Well, especially under the current administration.
Well, yeah, but under any, I mean, really, Utah's, especially rural, is a footnote because, we don't make the news a lot. We don't have any glitzy, glamorous, Beetlejuice-looking mayors. We don't have any of that stuff.
We got Dugway.
Yeah, we got
That sometimes makes the news.
we got Dugway, but I promise you, when Trump was president, you go and say, hey, Dugway does some really cool, interesting things. They do some bio testing, and he would go, where? Because Dugway's not even known around the military. Even though dang near every new advancement you get in the military has passed through Dugway to get proof tested.
Yeah.
They don't know about it.
Let's keep it unknown.
Yeah, sure. Don't worry. Every GI that goes there knows it's the most miserable place on earth. They compare it to NTC.
But going back to the comparison of what I realized of Wendover is to Tooele as Tooele is to Salt Lake, we shouldn't have that. We need to work together more so as a county and municipalities. Municipalities, we need to coordinate and cooperate. The infighting just needs to stop.
How much distance is between Tooele and Wendover?
Oh, what about 90 miles or so?
90 miles.
miles.
97 miles.
Hour and 20 minutes.
That's a lot of distance. And there's no reason why they shouldn't feel kind of left out, because I would say 90 miles of distance can make anyone feel left out.
Is there a way we could put like a satellite sheriff's office out there?
So they have had sheriff's deputies service their area before. At one time it was 2, I believe, and they actually lived there, I believe, or they had one that actually lived there. At present, I believe that they have 2 officers. They have 2 officers there locally, and the sheriff's department services there if needed, but we don't have a permanent sheriff or a deputy stationed out there right now. Wendover, I don't want to spend all of our time talking about Wendover, but I gained a new perspective by visiting there yesterday and talking to the individuals that I talked to. I really, really want to stress the point that as a county and as our individual municipalities, we need to come together. And that's probably our biggest roadblock that we're experiencing right now. We need to stop blaming Salt Lake City for a lot of our problems. And we need to look inward, and we need to solve our own stuff, our own strife, if we're going to protect our valley, protect our county, as well as prosper in our valley and in our county.
And that drags us back to the growth. Is if we don't grow, we're going to continue to send commerce around the mountain. And that's going to continue to strip us of tax benefit of population.
And the fear, though, is losing. I'm not sure. I don't know too many people that are afraid of gaining a new neighbor or two. I don't know too many people that have that fear. I think the real fear is losing the things that we hold dear, losing our small town feel, losing our values that actually lead to that small town feel. I've seen areas of the country. I've lived in a lot of places. By far, Tooele County is my favorite. We've really found our place here. And these other places that I've lived in, they've been quite a bit larger. Less than 100,000 residents, but they still have that small town country feel. For example, I spent some time, 4 years in northeastern Colorado, the conservative part of Colorado, Weld County, and absolutely loved it there. We had the small town feel. We had a few more amenities than what we would have out here, but it was just people knew each other still.
That's a lot of farmland up there too.
There is, yeah, and JBS is a big the meat packing. They're up there.
What about traffic? Was traffic different over there than it is here? Because we got Route 36 and it's absolutely congested.
We had more thoroughfares. We had up there in northeastern Colorado, there were more ways in and out. We're kind of limited here.
Yeah, they don't have a mountain in northeast Colorado.
Yeah.
On both sides of it.
Well, and that kind of actually fits into what we were talking about with growth. It's not just water and not just how many people we have. It goes also, and our values, right? Throw that into the mix. But it's also the commuting. You mentioned that a lot of it's 70 or 72%, somewhere in there, of our workforce actually drives around the mountain, whether to Utah, Davis, or Utah counties. And so that's 70% of our workforce that is losing 2 hours or 2.5, 3 hours, depending on which county they're driving to, in order to get a good paying wage. And it's worth it to them because the wages are higher.
Well, and also housing out here is horrendous. So you have to get a good paying wage to be able to afford to live any nominal life out here.
We're pretty comparable to Salt Lake right now.
In terms of housing, but quality of life. We don't have the restaurants. We don't have the.
Well, it depends on what quality you're looking for. If you're looking for cleaner air, we beat Salt Lake. If you're looking for more open spaces, we beat Salt Lake. If you're looking for less crime, we beat Salt Lake. We don't have the restaurants, but we also don't have the vast employment opportunities. Also, the middle of our county is occupied by a military or a closed off installation, which also limits our growth potential. Tooele can grow north to south, and it can't grow west as much, and a mountain stops it from growing east. Grantsville can grow east and north, but they can't really grow south as much. They are growing south where they can down Old Mormon Trail, but they can't grow into that section. There's, Anderson Ranch butts up against the fence line. And then what's being built on Old Mormon Trail bumps up against a fence line.
So what's the answer?
That's a big question.
So I think I have the answer, because there are a lot of people that do want to prevent the growth. Any type of growth. They're against it. And, if 7 years ago when I moved here, if I could have, I'll be honest, if I could have, I would have shut the door when I came in.
Yeah,
honestly,
closed it behind you.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, closed it behind me. And but that's an impossibility. from a legal standpoint,
even from where you sit, would you really want, I mean, if you think of all the implications, would you want to have nothing but heavy people commuting around the mountain all the time so your taxes continue to raise? Have the growth of residential areas be two things: be great big houses from people commuting around the mountain, or high density areas that produce a lot of crime.
Yeah.
And those are your options. If you don't allow that middle ground to grow, you end up with these vast differences which tear a city apart.
And I want to prevent all the negatives from any aspect of growth. If we have too high of a population, let me back up. If we don't start to manage it now, we're going to continue down the path that we're currently on. If we keep preventing all growth, then we're going to have nothing but residential growth. Really.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to become a growing bedroom community. We need to be smart about it. We need to really get ahead of it. And as much as it pains me to say, I think we're going to need to have to allow some growth, but with the caveat, the right type of growth would be commercial. Okay.
Yep.
So we need to start allowing commercial to come in for a number of reasons, not just any commercial. I mean, high paying commercial, manufacturing jobs. And if we are able to bring in those sorts of jobs, or even IT jobs, maybe, I don't know, some sort of jobs that will be, that will allow that 72% of people that commute to stay locally, to where they can get similar or the same wages without having to spend 2 hours of their day or more on the road listening to their books on tape, which great use of your time, right? If you have to do it, but wouldn't you rather spend it with your family?
So we got an interesting comment here that goes with this conversation. Holly says we need businesses to take the tax burdens off of the households, but you're saying that we need businesses that are going to provide good paying jobs. And here's the thing. Nobody wants to come to Tooele as a business because we don't have the population for it. And what are we going to give them? We have to incentivize. The only way we're going to get these decent businesses is if we put something on the chopping block.
Okay. So I don't think it's as bad as that. We do have the population for it. It's just that population is going to the other side of the mountain.
Imagine what it'd look like if we peeled just 5% off of that other side of the mountain population, what that could change. So
Holly brought up a good point with taxes. Okay. And that's from a few different angles, a few different points. So taxes in regards to the dollars that are commuting around the mountain. That's the first point I want to make about taxes. Those tax dollars go with the commuters. At lunch, they don't commute back to Tooele to visit our restaurants. They go out to lunch there. Business meetings.
Yeah,
that's where they go. They frequent the restaurants out there. On the way home from the commute, where do they go shopping? You brought up grocery stores earlier, David. Where do they go?
Well, they go to Costco if they got a membership.
Or Sam's Club
or Target.
Yeah.
You know, where we have one central location that any given day, any given time is monster packed.
Right.
And they say, I can hit Target, get the next level up of goods. You know, they're going to go to Target.
Or even the same goods, but for a different price. Or maybe just the convenience. Maybe
that's kind of next level of, I mean, let's face it. I worked in an industry where we changed the packaging out. The middle stuff was exactly the same, and it cost 15% more. The packaging wasn't any different, just the color of it.
Okay.
So, you know, we reckon, but, you know, Target, especially if you can, let's say you work downtown and you can hit that Smith's downtown, which is a much nicer store than anything we have here in in Tooele, except maybe Solberg's out in Stansbury. You know, it's just a nicer environment. You know, you walk in, there's a Starbucks at the door, and it's, you know, if you're going to be able to shop there, you probably shop there.
Yeah, for the experience, the convenience, whatever the reasons for it. We're not just competing locally. We are competing with Salt Lake.
Yeah.
It's not Lucky's versus Macy's versus Solberg's. It's Lucky's versus Macy's versus Solberg's and Walmart versus all of the other stores, Sam's Club, the Costco, Winco, all of these other big box stores that sell in bulk at discount. Fuel prices, I hear about that a lot too, as far as taxes go. That doesn't really affect us that much if somebody buys fuel out there.
Our fuel is cheaper than Salt Lake City.
It bounces back and forth. Right now, I think it's cheaper.
And that's because of Walmart. I mean, let's face it, Walmart came in here, they totally undercut everybody, and everybody had to follow them in order to survive.
Drove it down.
And I mean, from my perspective, I love it. But, you know, I mean, from the other perspective, like when I was saying, hey, let's charge IRTA for the services they can't provide themselves. I mean, that's the capitalist thing, right? I mean, that's how free markets go. But you know, from my perspective, I love it. And I don't know how that's hurting the community.
Well, it's not really a free market when it's a government charging other people what they can.
Well, you don't want private entities really running or controlling your water system. I mean, I think that's more of a public service.
I think Nestle is doing an outstanding job in Sweden and Finland. But anyways, no, I agree. We gotta figure out how to do how to control growth so that we bring in positive revenue versus just not that, you know, residential's a negative revenue, but it gets kind of stifling.
So that's what. Go ahead.
No, there's a slider bar right here. Okay, so you have your businesses. You want to incentivize your businesses. What kind of a tax break will you give them? Will you give them a lot of tax breaks? Will you give them very little tax breaks? Because on the other side, we also need those tax dollars that are going to come from those businesses. Like Holly was stating, you know, those businesses are what's going to propel us. But the problem is, you got to figure out where that slider bar is supposed to be, and to come up with that perfect algorithm. How many chances do we have to actually experiment with that slider bar? How many opportunities can we actually mess up before we really jack up our budgets? I mean, we got to really get that right the first time.
Yeah.
And how do you do that?
So you're talking about tax incentives in order to bring the businesses in. We actually, the most recent that I could speak to that I'm aware of would have been Amazon. Amazon put out a bid for where they wanted to put their location, and they were looking for a place really close to, right next to an airport, an international airport, and we put in a bid for it. We lost, obviously. Amazon is not here. They chose to be right next to the airport, but I think that was the big reason why. I don't think it was because of tax incentives on that particular case.
So we lost because of location.
Location, yeah.
Right.
But here's the thing. Pretty soon, they're not going to have much land out. They already don't have much land out there. From the last study I saw, this is from a few years ago when I was working.
Well, I don't know. The lake's drying up. Pretty soon, they're going to be nothing but land out there. But that's 5 years down the road.
We can talk about water. I want to finish up on taxes real quick because Holly brought up a really good point, and I still haven't talked about it. So taxes. So bringing in businesses as far as tax incentives are concerned, you got to be careful with that to find that perfect spot with that slider scale that you were talking about. It's how you structure it. It's the agreement, the contract that is put up that both parties agree to. It's happened time and time again. I've seen it. I know we had a recent experience with it locally, where you give a tax incentive for a business to come in, and then all of a sudden, as soon as the tax incentive is up, it's usually time-based, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, whatever it is. And it could be a tax rebate where you actually collect the tax and then you give part of the tax back, or it's a tax deferral. It's whatever the case may be. There's a lot of different ways that you can structure a tax incentive. These companies will come into places with this great tax benefit. And as soon as the end of the contract is up, they're gone. You know, a year or two before the contract is up, they start looking elsewhere. They buy another property and then they're gone. So before they're able to even start paying the taxes to benefit the community that they just moved into, it's all about the bottom line for them, and they're gone. So I said that happened to us recently, the purple factory, where it's at currently off of Sheep Lane. I can't remember the name of the company, but there was a company there before, Purple, that they're the ones that brought in business. They're the ones that built that facility, and they got a really good tax incentive. And then all of a sudden they were gone at the end of it.
But they left the facility, right?
They did.
They did build it, and they left it for someone else, I guess.
Yep. But the point is, we didn't get all of the benefits that we should have from the tax break. We got taken advantage of. We really did. And as a county councilman, that's something that I really want to watch out for.
Would you write that into, say, a contract if they were going to put out here, say you have to maintain your business interests out here for X amount of time past the break?
I've heard that. I've thought about it. I haven't looked into the legalities behind that, if you can actually require a private entity to stay local for quite some time, because that does start to encroach on private entities and so on. But I don't know. I would have to look into the legalities of that, because it makes sense. It does make sense. But there's also the slippery slope. If you're going to stipulate something along those lines, then what's next after that? So you still want to incentivize. You still want to respect private enterprise. But at the same time, we just can't let ourselves get hoodwinked again.
You know, you got to wonder, though, was it just the tax incentives that made this company want to leave? Was it maybe employees? Maybe it was culture out here? Maybe there were some other factors, and we're not considering them. Maybe
all of the above. I don't know. I wasn't privy to those conversations. I wasn't in the meetings. I don't know. But I think to shift gears a little bit, to go to Holly's point as far as taxes are concerned. So we talked about tax incentives to bring businesses in. You really need to pay attention to how they're structured. Taxes that are going into Salt Lake, Davis, and Utah counties, that's our tax revenue that's leaving our county. That tax revenue should stay here, and we need to find a way to keep it here in order to serve our people, our community, our valley. And then to Holly's point, as far as how taxes, how wealthy we can be as a county is what she's getting at there. The way that taxes are structured at the county level is you look at, or municipalities in general, you look at what you bring in from taxes commercially. And then what's left over, at least in my mind's eye, what's left over, you look at residential taxes and see what your tax rate has to be for that upcoming year. When it comes time to set the budget, you also set tax rates. You have the opportunity to lower or increase taxes or keep it the same. And you go off of past projections. You look at the past in order to try to prognosticate the future, predict the future. And so you set the tax rate. Well, hopefully you're good. Maybe a little bit of surplus in the end, like the state of Utah has done recently. We had a big surplus, and they're trying to give it back to us locally, right around the state. And so that's what happens if we continue to grow residentially. If we don't bring in commercial, and you can't stop the growth, and we only allow residential to come in,
our services dry up.
They dry up because we don't have the tax base.
Yeah. Or you keep raising taxes until the houses go empty and run dry.
Yeah, until people move away because they don't want to pay the tax rates.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this, but residential taxes are not high enough to pay for themselves. They rarely, if ever, are. Residential taxes, property taxes, all of the taxes that we pay, if you take all of that money combined, you still need extra money in order to pay for the services that you receive as a residential area. Commercial taxes make up the bulk of that. When you go to very wealthy counties, it's because of the industry that they have, or the type of industry that they have. Mm-hmm. Those industries bring in a lot of money. They have a lot of tax revenue that comes from that. That tax revenue is what serves the citizens of that community. That's what I see. I see it as the magic ticket, the golden bullet, right? The silver bullet, whatever analogy you want to use. It's you, as a community, we need to bring in the way to actually receive services in order to increase the quality of life. And if the growth is coming anyway, you might as well pick the growth that's going to increase our quality of life. Not only that, but we talked about water earlier a little bit. Commercial property takes up less water than residential area.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, you talk negatively about the high density housing, but doesn't high density housing use less water per square inch per person than say like 5-acre lots?
So you're talking about farmland. Farmland by far uses the most water by far.
Plus you're stretching pipes long distances where if you compact your people.
But farmland's also they're an income generating process where, like, say my house doesn't bring any income in, and commercial brings income in. Farmland mixes the two. It's
well, and David is bringing up the point that when you have a 5-acre lot set up next, and you're right, when you have a 5-acre lot set up to another 5-acre lot next door to each other, you do have a lot of infrastructure that you have to put in order to connect just the two plots.
And you got two families within 10 acres, whereas the high density, you've got 20 families.
But high density, again, isn't an income generator. It doesn't produce anything.
Right.
Whereas farmland produces something.
Well, I was talking about water conservation.
Well, yeah, it's water conservation, but that also, in reflection to the taxes, you still want to have some commercial tax base. If we could build all of Tooele into a square block a mile high, it'd still be a losing cause.
I do want to mention that we need to keep open space as well. Out here in Tooele County, we're recreators. We are. We love our recreation. We love open space. So we do need to set aside open space. We need to set aside recreation areas. Also, the parts of our county, I'm thinking specifically of Deseret Peak Complex, as far as recreation goes, we need to expand that a little bit more because we are such great
I think we need to start using it more, too.
We do.
That thing shouldn't be sitting empty 3 out of 4 weekends.
No, I agree. And actually, last week I sat down with our county manager, Andy Welch, and had a great conversation with him. Part of the conversation is we talked about Deseret Peak. And, first I've got to say, our executive branch is amazing. Andy, as an individual, is a great guy. He's a smart guy. But what he is doing is extremely impressive. His honey-do list that he gets from all areas of the county, since as the county executive now, he manages all the executive aspects of our county. That's not elected. He's an appointed. So the elected executives, they still oversee their specific departments, but everything else goes to Andy and his assistant Brittany. And they have a secretary. The three of them together, they just do a phenomenal job.
He's a hard worker.
He is. They are.
He was my Airbnb when he first got here, and I remember he'd come home so late at night, exhausted. I'm like, they're running you dry, man. They must be riding you hard. Long hours.
And he has great ideas. He does. We spoke at length about Deseret Peak, and I like his idea. Pretty soon, if it's okay to say this, he's actually going to bring it to the public soon. He wants public input, and to me, that's nice. Instead of just saying, "Hey guys, this is the way it's going to be," I'm now the guy in charge. You know how some politicians get sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, I can't stand that.
It would be cool to say in the stockyard has those offices, to get something in there that occupies those offices that sit empty.
There's that.
90% of the time. Maybe bring a restaurant onto the property to draw more things in. I mean, we've got softball happens out there.
Well, Holly brings up a great point here. All right, so she says, or sell Deseret Peak to a private entity and take the costs off the taxpayers. And here's my
That is
perspective.
another good point. Yeah.
It may be a big cash cow if we do it right. And the question, or the main word in that sentence is if. And government running businesses, usually it doesn't work. I mean, you can't be an efficient business if you don't feel the pain of the consequences of failure.
Yeah, if success isn't the only goal, if you've got a stopgap, if you fail,
right. The worst thing that will happen if we fail as owning this business as a government is that we just raise the taxes.
Raise
on
the taxes,
people.
bury it, take it from someone. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, could the county lease out space out there?
I'm
Is
sure.
it possible?
I'm sure we could. I'm not the type that I'm not going to go to Andy and say, "Hey, we're going to do this." I can't do that anyway.
Well, yeah.
There are legal protections behind that. You know, from the executive managerial side of the county versus the council side, we have the executive versus the legislative, and I wouldn't want to, and I can't do it anyway. So. But what we could do is kind of like how we did last week. Hey, you know, here's an idea. Have you considered this? But what I was getting at with Andy and what he's going to do with Deseret Peak is he's opening it up to the public. Mm-hmm. What do you want to do about Deseret Peak? I think that's the right approach.
When does he plan to make that announcement?
I'm going to leave that to him. Maybe I've already said too much.
Well, maybe I should reach out to him. Maybe we can talk him into coming on the show to talk about it.
Yeah.
But there are plans there to make plans. And I think that's the right approach, is he's going to take it to everybody. He wants public input. And maybe this will be the first mentioning of it, but when the time comes, please give your input. You have to give your input as a community, as a county, as a valley. A lot of people talk about Deseret Peak Complex and they don't like this or they don't like that. Here's your opportunity.
Wouldn't it be cool if it was set up so that people in the county that maybe want to start a small business could shoot their shot, and an affordable property offered to them by the county that maybe they make a success, a housewife that wants to make t-shirts, or there's an opportunity for that. We got the Tooele Wellness Center up there that I really appreciate that they've got that, where you can go in for an extremely reasonable price and people try to start a business, and they may not succeed. They might fail, whatever, but it gives them an opportunity to take that chance, where renting a strip mall space down on Main Street is way out of their possibility.
Yeah.
So let's bring it back to Wendover. You said you went to the airport, and I'm curious to know what you discovered at the Wendover airport, because it's always been an interesting topic to me. This airport, it seems like it kind of just sits there in our county without much publicity. And where do we go with it, do you think?
Yeah, and I can address that too after we're done talking about the airport, just how they are kind of off and alone. We talked about that last night. So first with the airport, there are two parts to the airport. There's the commercial side of it, where we still receive flights. And then there's the other part of the airport, where it's the historical museum side, which there are a couple of airplanes that are there that are on display. And actually, I did not know this until yesterday. I knew that there was a historical museum out there. I knew it was of historical value concerning the Enola Gay, and that's the bomber that dropped the atomic bomb on one of the Japanese cities out there. And this historical significance is just that. It's significance. It's paramount to American history.
It's where they land trained to do that mission.
Where all the bomber pilots were trained for that mission, and then some. Many, many, many bomber pilots were trained at that facility. They even have a tower that's still there, the original tower. And so great facility. I liked it, but it's dilapidated. It really is. You know, they're making efforts. They're doing a good job with what they have. But it's not to the point where I would like to see it be. You know, especially as a veteran, it really pains me to see it in the condition that it is. Also, to add to that, it's near and dear to my heart because my grandfather was a World War II bombardier. You know, he was a bomber pilot.
Yeah.
He before it was called the Air Force, it was the Army Air Corps. He was actually a bomber flight instructor, and he taught other bomber pilots before they went overseas. And you know, so the Air Corps has always been an interest to me. The military is very near and dear to me, and being a history buff, the historical preservation of it, I mean, that's just a lot of who I am, just colliding into one. And I want to see something happen there.
How do we draw? I think the only way you can keep a museum alive is to draw. You got to put asses in the seats.
You got to have commerce along with that museum that stimulates the economy.
You can manage that if you tie it into the casino, the bar, the restaurants that are on the other side.
It's probably illegal for them to pour a customer a beer, I bet.
Well, no, you can tie it in. There's no reason we can't. But I think the location, so either they need to figure out how to advertise more and draw more people in from across the line, or they've got to figure out how to get more people from here to commit to that hour and a half drive to go see it.
Right. So two thoughts. Number one, the commercial part of the airport, it's still functional. It still operates. It's a big runway. They used to fly in 737s quite often through that airport. So it's big enough for commercial flights.
Isn't it mostly used for freight though?
I couldn't tell you what it's. So I do know that Life Flight goes in and out. That's one of its big responsibilities. I know it's used as a backup for some of the military flights. I know that it's used for private jets that come in and out of Wendover for whatever purposes those might be.
All above board, all perfectly legal, I'm sure. Cool.
We won't. Yeah, sure. I would imagine so. But as far as any other purposes, you know, ever since COVID, a lot of the commercial flights really died down, and it just hasn't gotten back yet. It's not where it used to be. There's talk of possibly, or the hope, sometime in the future, opening up some more flights. But with things the way they are right now, I don't know how long it's going to take before it gets to that point. So commercially, the airport, it's still vital. It's still important. It's still a part of our county. We need it. And it's not just us as a county. It's not just Wendover as a city. There are organizations and entities that rely on that airport, and it's vital.
It's a military asset.
It is. It's a logistical asset, a strategic asset. So I think that Wendover, the airport, definitely needs some attention. I'd like to see some change, some efforts there. I'm willing to work with the city of Wendover in order to put some of those efforts into play. But really, my role as a county councilman would be as a supporting role. You know, if Wendover wants to do something along those lines, Wendover is going to have to be the ones to really ask for the help. And as a county, that's when we can step in. You know, there are different ways that we can help. There's obviously we have a budget for bringing in outsiders, tourism. We have a budget for tourism to help out with marketing.
The county tourism board, yeah.
Right, yeah. We have options to where we can help out. I do know that they are as the museum is concerned, they do want to reach out to other entities to see if they can secure more money in order to bring it up to
Get
par.
a couple grants.
Yeah.
I know
grants
the
or
Donner
ongoing.
Reed Museum down there in Grantsville went through some grants to get some maintenance done and
Yeah.
to get a restroom put on site and things like that.
Well, and I see Pearl Harbor, another nationally historic monument. Pearl Harbor brings in tourists from all over the world. And I don't know if Wendover, I don't want to sound negative about this. I don't know if we could ever get to that point, but it is, I learned this yesterday. It is the number one military base, or it is the most still wholly structured historical site. So as far as how much is still there, it's still there's a lot there. It's there's still a lot of preserved buildings, probably because
people
of its
pay
location.
good money to go to that too. Because
Right.
I just went last year.
To Wendover.
No, to Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Pearl Harbor also draws them in with the, hey, it's Hawaii.
Yeah. Right.
That's
That
true.
You know,
kind of helps.
So that's where I think we need to. I'm just spitballing, but where I think the museum needs to figure out is saying, "Hey, you're already in Wendover. Take, I don't. However they do it, if they get a shuttle bus that just makes laps from the museum into the different casinos, pick up times, bring them out. It's an hour tour."
So you think maybe the military facility would be a secondary reason to go out? I'm thinking more. There are a lot of history buffs that are out there that would love the experience.
Sure. There
Maybe for a primary reason.
there are not enough to make a steady flow, a constant flow, and history buffs going to a historical museum don't tend to do it every weekend.
No, that's true. That's
And when I go to a museum, I get hungry. So I mean, if I were to be able to throw some money at it, I'd make it like a brew and pub type restaurant combination with the museum. That way, because there's not much in Wendover when it comes to restaurants, unless you're talking the casino buffet.
In the casinos is where the restaurants in Wendover are.
But I mean, if I were to go to a restaurant combination museum, I'd throw money at that. But yeah, you're going to have to find some sort of a combo for that museum in order to give it some tourist attractions.
Yeah. I'm sure that they would be willing to hear your input. Really. Not to say that they would take it, but maybe.
Well, and not to say that our input's the design, but if it gives them an idea, something to bounce off, I would love to see that museum thrive.
Yeah.
But even for history buffs, I myself am one. I've come from a family of them, and we've all been to the airfield out there. But that being said, my father goes out there all the time, and when I say all the time, I mean once every year, once every couple of years. It is a big draw. But if we could figure out how to peel off people that are going out for the debauchery across the state line and give them a wholesome hour, if we could figure out how to, hey, before you get drunk and lose all your money, take an hour and come check this out. And look, we have this box by the door with this slot in it if you want to drop $1.
Yeah. No, and those are all great ideas. I really do think so. And it would be, I would encourage you to reach out to the airport even. They might be open to those sorts of ideas, and not to say that they haven't already thought of those ideas.
I'm sure. I'm a moron. Anyone else has thought about everything light years before I got near it.
Well, speaking of Wendover again, they really are. My heart goes out to them. Sitting down with Dennis, he's a great guy, the mayor, and I really, just as I would really want to help our more rural parts of the county succeed.
Is Callio in your district?
Callio.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Is that in the county? Callio.
I couldn't tell you. I don't know where Callio is. I know where Ophir is. I know where Vernon is.
Okay.
It's a big territory you got to cover. So
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll tell you what, though, the roads down in the southern part, or down towards Vernon, down south of Stockton, they are really beat up.
Mhm.
They're really bad. I know that as a candidate, I get asked questions about the roads quite often. I know that as a valley, we've done a pretty good job. We've made a lot of efforts. The municipalities have made a lot of efforts. As a county, I know that some efforts have been made a few years ago. I can't think of anything recently that's happened. Not to say that that's not the case, because maybe I just haven't paid attention or I haven't seen anything. It could have still happened. The roads are an important aspect of our county. I know that another concern, while you're looking that up, another concern that's been brought to my attention are just how the roads are used. We do have some gravel pits that actually tear up
Oh yeah.
a lot of the roads, and they don't actually use, or they don't actually pay a tax. I don't know if you knew that or not. But
Really?
the gravel pits, they don't even pay a tax here locally.
they don't pay any taxes.
Not for the mineral that they're pulling out of the ground. They pull it out,
Mm-hmm.
they haul it away, they take it to Salt Lake Valley or wherever else, and at the point of sale, that's where the sales tax is.
Yep.
At. We don't even see a dime of that.
Well, we taxed the. Huh? That's interesting.
You know, and another good point that's been brought up, some of those trucks that are on the roads that are hauling the dirt, that are hauling the mineral out, some of them don't even have Utah plates. They're not even paying the tax at the state. Yeah, so that's something that I've been working on. I've been talking to a number of individuals at the state level, as well as the local level, and that's a problem that needs to be addressed.
That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are our roads, and they're tearing them up. These are heavy loads
Oh yeah.
on roads that were never even built for that purpose.
You know, when it comes to roads, I'll tell you what. I know the mayor in Tooele, she puts this program together where the citizen can rent a trailer from the city and go do lawn care for these dilapidated territories or whatnot. Now, I think that's a really good thing to do, because then you get the community involved in taking care of their own community without having to extract tax resources in a heavier capacity. What if there was a way that the community could take care of their own potholes and the county maybe provided supplies? I mean, has that ever been looked into?
Well, if it's a county road, it needs to be serviced by the county. I would just rather keep it as is, the way that it is, where you have a boundary line. If it's on the city side of a boundary, they should take care of it. If it's on the county side, the county should take care of it. I mean, that's what we're doing now, and I don't see anything wrong with that. It's just getting it done. It's just putting the money into it, and finding the money to do it. You only have so many resources that you can allocate. You only have so many funds that you can allocate for projects. And going back to my original, my pitch, it really is my pitch. We need to bring in more commercial properties. We need to bring in high paying wages. And once that happens, we have the tax revenue to where we can do stuff like that.
And that's also a benefit for the populace.
It is, yeah.
Where they
not
can
just
get
for
jobs,
roads.
they can because right now, I mean, you get a job in Salt Lake, you've got to put an extensive consideration on your transportation to get to work.
Right. It's true.
And we don't have a mass transit system out here that can support it. I mean, let's face it, and we're not going to get one anytime soon. Mass transit works in communities that were built before mass automobiles. They just don't work in communities that were built after. They're too spread out.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. The
Now here's Callio, and it is in Juab County, so you lucked out. So, all right. So here's Dugway Proving Grounds, right? Did you ever drive out past Granite Peak to the fence line when you worked out there?
Yeah. I think I've driven out that way. I don't think I got to the fence line though.
Okay. So you go down the main road.
Definitely behind Granite Peak.
Ditto is right here. You know, there's an old bomber right there, kind of crashed, rotting out. But anyways, that's cool. Anyway, so you drive out way past, you go out to where the geode beds are. You cross the fence line out of Dugway, and then you drive all the way out to Callio. There is Dugway main gate. There's the Wendover fence line. Callio has a population of like 6, maybe 5.
Is this trip legal that you're talking about? Crossing Dugway fences?
No, that wouldn't be legal.
Actually, Callio gets their mail on Dugway Proving Grounds.
Oh,
Really?
do they?
Yeah. We would, if we were to go, you can get permission to go out that way. Dugway gives people permission to go that way all the time.
Yeah.
But you would go down to the old Pony Express Trail and then drive it up and over.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's
Or
way
you can
out
save
there.
2 hours and do it your
And
way.
then you ask permission. I've seen him give permission. When I was out there working out there, we'd escort people all the time out through the gate.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And the guys that lived out in Callio had a key to that gate to come in. That's how they got their mail and everything else. But yeah, it's an interesting town. It's a little jute in the road and has 6 or 7 houses on it, and that's the whole city.
Wow.
Actually, I think they have their own post office out there in someone's house.
You got a lot of comments to go through.
Yeah, we
Since,
got to run through them.
Let's do
real
that.
quick.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay?
Go ahead. Yeah.
We're talking about little towns now. You brought up, or I'm thinking of now, Ophir.
Ophir.
Yeah, Ophir. I mean, isn't that sad how it just dissolved? And do you know where that property went?
Do I know when they unincorporated where it went to the school district?
It went to the school district.
And that's Utah law that all property that is given back goes to the school district, and that's how the school district kind of secures its standing in the state.
Okay. Whether or not they sell the property or whatever the case may be, I think it's an old law. I haven't actually looked into it far enough to see how long ago it was actually instituted, but I can see how it would benefit a local school district. But what does a school district have to do with the cemetery?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Does the school district have to pay school taxes on that land? Just out of curiosity.
Well, you mean they pull
good
money out of
question.
the right pocket and put it in the left and carry about their day?
I mean, how unfair is it that one entity doesn't have to pay taxes and we do, you know?
Do you know that when there's a deceased person that's going to be buried in the cemetery, the school district sends out their maintenance, their crew in order to dig?
Really?
Yes.
That's at Ophir? Or is that here also?
The cemetery out in Ophir.
Oh, really?
That is their land. They are in the business of maintaining
Now,
cemeteries.
how long have they had it? I've known quite a few people out at Ophir that have passed.
It's been just a few years, right?
How weird would that be? You're cruising through life. You're a lawn maintenance guy for the school district. Next thing you know, they're handing you a shovel and saying, okay, remember, 6 foot deep, because there's some actually pretty cool cemeteries here in the county. Tooele South area has an old pioneer cemetery out on it. And that's a really neat one. It'd be nice. That's one I think that they should figure out how to kind of open up to public tours.
Oh, they don't want people going out there.
It's
You trip
right
over
on,
some mustard gas.
it's right on the edge of a fence line. You know, I mean, if you're driving down the freeway, you're just as close as if you're standing at the cemetery, but it's up on a hill and it has some like pioneer buried in it. And then you've got the Merker Cemetery. I don't know if you've ever been out there.
No, I haven't.
That is the coolest one. Spooky as hell. You got to go at night, but It's old. I think it was during like a flu, but there's a lot of it's. Let's link up one day and we'll head out there.
Okay,
That's a lot of ghost hunters and UFO chasers go out there too.
I'm all for it.
It's up on the side of a mountain. Just you got to walk a trail to get to it. It's pretty interesting.
Okay, sounds good. I like it.
I would like to see. I like your idea. We got to bring more commerce in. But I think that's like you said, that's a fine line.
You got to incentivize them to come here because they ain't coming here just because it's Tooele.
But I don't want to be hoodwinked.
Yeah,
and that's the main. That's the main.
Who
thing.
does?
You got to go. Yeah, you got to figure out a give and take to where, even if you are hoodwinked, it's still beneficial. It's not a total loss.
They build you a factory and leave it there for the next guy at least. I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Purple made use of it.
We could do better.
I think we could, and no need to disparage anything on air right now. All right, let's go through Holly's comments here. It seems like for some reason the comments disappear on that one, so we'll go over here. Cell Desert, where was we at, Dave? Okay, Wendover, Nevada offers great flight rates for people to come in and gamble for the weekend and leave. Yeah, and you know what? We need to figure out how to get people to leave from Wendover. What if we had a get drunk on a bus, go to the Wendover airport, and fly out already hammered flights?
Or bus tours to Salt Lake City from Wendover.
They've got them going the other way. I mean, you can take a bus tour. I think it's like $21.
Oh yeah, but you can also drink on that bus too.
That's what I'm saying. Get drunk on the bus, go to the Wendover airport, and then fly out to wherever you're going.
Those are pretty interesting.
Yeah, make the flight bearable. All right. Wendover, Utah is also landlocked by BLM land that doesn't allow them to grow as a city. It's another good point. That's everywhere out here too. Utah, what is it? Something like 71% of Utah belongs to the federal government. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but we get $1 million a year or so in PILT money for it.
Sure,
Yeah,
but what could we get? What could we get if it was ours?
Yeah, and that's true. So for those that don't know, on federal land, there's a program called PILTs. It's payment in lieu of taxes. So since an entity like Tooele County can't use the land and develop it, the federal government has this program where they pay in lieu of taxes, the taxes that could be received if we develop the land, whether commercially or residentially or however. But only, and it varies. It varies from year to year. They don't. It's set by Congress.
Whatever they kind of felt it would have been
by Congress. Yeah, Congress sets the rate for that year. Sometimes it could be as much as $2 million, and I know it was 1.2 million at one point. It's not a lot of money, especially given the amount of acreage.
Shocking. Yeah. All to use as collateral to take us off the gold standard.
Well, and also, let's say the federal government says, okay, you can have your land back. Who would it go to? You, me, Jared?
Yes.
Like, how do you give the land? Like, I give you the land back.
Yes.
So do you put it on eBay?
You said Jared. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Give it to Jared. This would become the land of Jared.
I always wondered how that distribution process would work if they actually got what they wanted.
But how did they steal it? That's the biggest question. But
Killed
anyways, we don't need to dig into that. Didn't Wendover turn the airport back over to the county because of costs?
I think that was the reason why. I think that was a main driving.
It could be. I mean, they've
motivation behind
it. Well, and again, that's another thing where that airport was flying people in for the one tax user base for those people to drive west 5 minutes and spend everything else in another entity, and then come back for one tax admission and then fly out. So that's another kind of sacrificial cost where they had a hard time recuperating that, just like we are with Salt Lake.
Is there any stores in the airport that people can shop at?
No. Yeah. As far as I could tell, they have 3 restaurants or so, and then or 4 restaurants, and one of them's a Subway.
They've got that
You know,
Mexican restaurant though, don't they?
Yeah, I saw one.
That food is that is one of my favorite restaurants ever, and it's just a dive bar, little dive restaurant. Okay. And then she says the high-speed racing happens on the flats, and many visitors of those races visit the museum while they're attending those races. Yes, and we need to keep that going. We need to advertise that. Maybe the museum could sponsor things like that. You know, drag a bomber or something out and park it next to where they're racing and get people enticed by that. But again, with those high-speed races, where are they staying?
Usually on the other side.
On the other side.
From what I was told. Yeah,
a place that they can go and
experience freedoms.
Well, they can go. They have hotels there. They don't have hotels on this side.
There are some.
Are there?
I would say motels instead of hotels.
Okay, motels. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so we get the guy that's racing the 1971 Duster, but the guy who's actually setting the land speed record with money is staying, in more luxury accommodations. I'm not talking the Red Garter, but he might be, living high on the hog.
The Red Garter.
Yeah. I stayed in there one night. I fought the roaches all night long. It was scary.
Did you win?
No.
And so those races, they last for about a week, at least the big event is about a week long. And so that's a huge boon or a huge boom for the economy.
I've never been. Have you?
I haven't. No.
I want to.
I've went out and watched it a couple times.
I want to.
It is a boom for the economy, but not a lot of that is recovered on this side.
Yeah, you're right.
And we've got I'm sorry, we have religious restrictions in this state and alcohol restrictions in this state that handcuff us.
Well, it's also really tough too. I mean, can you imagine any type of service, whether it's alcohol or if it's another motel or whatever the case may be? Can you imagine building another 1, 2, or 3 of those, and then all of a sudden it's only being used for a week? It's just that would be really tough to develop the east side just from that aspect, just for that one event.
True, or you could drive in 50 miles and start a brand new city and compete to where they race west.
Between Wendover and Grantsville?
Yeah.
There have been some that have done that and they haven't succeeded.
Well, yeah, because there's nothing there.
Right.
There is not you know what's there? Rattlesnakes don't even live there. It's so desolate. But if there was a reason that you could build something, I'm just saying, the state has chosen to go with a theocratic direction that has restricted certain areas of growth, and we sit next to a state that went the exact opposite way. Anytime we butt up against competition with them on anything, we're going to lose. Anytime. And it doesn't matter what it is. If it's restaurants, we're going to lose. If it's anything. Anything. If we have if you're within 30 miles of Wendover and you have let's just say a missionary fireside, they're going to stay in Wendover just because it has the amenities it's built up around. It has more liberty than we do.
So you're talking about target market. I mean, what are we actually tailoring?
It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. Amenities build up around liberty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Freedom always yields the better product versus a less.
And I'm not knocking on Utah.
society.
Utah has
not at all.
decided to go one way, and there's a reason that we're a very clean state. I mean, anyone goes to Salt Lake and says Salt Lake is cleaner than any city a quarter its size.
Well, I won't speak too much to the philosophy behind that, but I will speak to free markets. I support free markets. As I would hope any Republican would still, they would.
Any Republican
reply
except
the
those
same
in
way.
our legislature that keep the DABC around. Yeah, go on.
Okay.
It's a catch-22 for Republicans in Utah. I mean,
it really is. It really is.
you don't want to offend the Mormons, but you still want to promote the free market. It's weird. It's like
They need
Well,
to say
you
ish
can't-
more. The
Ish.
free-ish market.
You can't become the United States of what was it, the 1910s, 1920s, during the flapper movement, and which created the Al Capone, right? During
No. That didn't create Al Capone.
Okay.
Making alcohol illegal created Al Capone.
Well, that's what I'm talking to. Back
Yeah.
in that time period when the United States actually,
prohibition.
Yeah.
during the Prohibition, you create Al Capone,
Yeah.
and the like. You know, if there has to be reasonable standards, but at the same time, you can't completely get rid of certain things. I mean, people are gonna if somebody wants to do something bad enough, they're gonna find a way to do it.
It's going to happen. Yeah.
Right. And I know that that argument is used to different, I guess you could say, recreational
Sure.
items as well. And I'll speak to that a little bit. You know, I spent some time, like we talked about earlier, in Colorado, in Northeast Colorado. And while I was there, I got involved a little bit with politics. My political philosophy was born in the Tea Party movement. It was. And I strongly supported the gubernatorial candidate at the time, who was backed by the Tea Party. And I got involved with his campaign through a mutual acquaintance. And all of a sudden, here I was. I raised my hand and I was put right to work. You know, soon it was shown that, you know, I could do certain things and had certain talents and abilities. And so, you know, I was called on to do a few things at the campaign and took on some leadership and management roles and coordinated a lot of efforts. And sadly, 2010, we lost. We lost to John Hickenlooper. My candidate was Dan Mays. Good man, really good man. And I think that he would have done a phenomenal job. Because we lost, we did have some liberties were given and some liberties were taken away. And so Second Amendment was infringed upon because of the reduction of magazine capacity.
Yep.
But at the same time, some liberties were given.
Yeah. They
in the sense of
they got marijuana legalization or
Recreational.
decriminalization.
recreational use of marijuana was prohibited or permitted.
Yep.
And I know it's changed a little bit since then, but again, this is back in 2010. And as soon as that happened, I'll tell you, they came out in full force and they were everywhere. And by they, I mean these
The
recreational users of,
And the stores and the everything.
But you have to expect that if you have one area in the country where something is legal, and everywhere else, what do you think is going to happen? If you legalize it everywhere, you're not going to have anything.
And another big thing that happened though, how did the revenue for Colorado turn out that first year?
so tax revenue there was an uptick.
An uptick is an understatement. I think they gained like 40% over their previous year.
I think it was over 100 million. It's like 140 million. I would have to look it up.
Ridiculous amount of revenue the state got from it.
Yeah. But at what cost? You know, and I think
it smells like skunk and
it comes to personal preference at that point.
And people, you know, talk slower, but their DUIs went down.
Okay.
Violence went down around the state. You know, and I'm not a pot smoker, but this is just what happened. So I am full, you know, libertarian on these subjects.
But let me ask you
Allow
this:
commerce and freedom.
Did the public streets smell like pot because people were smoking pot in the public streets?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So right there, you're infringing on my freedom to breathe free fresh air, just as you would be impairing my freedom if you were driving drunk. But the law enforcement never did anything.
I think
about
there's
it, right?
there's
And
a big difference between saying someone driving drunk and blowing out smoke that evaporates.
Negative.
They're along the same lines, but
you don't have an allergy to that stuff.
4 tons of metal gives less than a shit about any allergy you're packing. 4 tons of metal. The 4 tons of metal you can't hide on the other side of your house wall from.
No, I still disagree, Jared. If you're impeding on my liberties, you should be thrown in jail.
I'll tell you, it was not very family friendly.
Okay,
and as a father of 4,
and I agree,
I did not appreciate it one bit. And
it
that's
is
an understatement.
It is not. You're right. It is not family friendly. Also, you've got to look at it like this. Are you bringing down your family values from, say, generations post 1950, when they decided to start ramping up against marijuana, whereas previous to that wouldn't have been an issue for families to be around? Is it a family friendly because of the culture you've been handed down just for 2 generations? That's another big question, such as smoking is now. I am 47 years old. When I was younger, smoking was much more common. It was in restaurants.
Well, you couldn't escape it.
And again, it was a violation and they were punching you in the face, whatever.
Yeah, they were.
But it was much more common. But now the culture has changed. Whereas when I was young growing up, my parents, my father, who's a devoutly religious man, didn't consider that family friendly. Whereas me now, because of the culture shift, would consider that different.
Well, the culture has shifted. That has changed, true. But the effects, the long-term effects and short-term effects of using a substance like that has not changed. That's been consistent. It's
of marijuana.
Yeah. And
I think us making it illegal so that a guy could argue for his paper mills to made from wood, which is why it was made illegal. Exactly why.
Okay.
William Randolph Hearst.
Paper, yeah.
William Randolph Hearst fought to get it added to whatever they were doing with cocaine. Why was cocaine Schedule 3 and marijuana was Schedule 1? Riddle me that. And not to mention, we never did any tests, which have now been proven, on the positive effects cannabis has towards cancer, towards all. So we stifled.
Yeah.
How many people have suffered and died because of that dog shit?
So you're talking about a different subject.
And I'm not a user. This is me
that's fine.
arguing.
That's
and no, direct marijuana, direct cannabis.
No, so what's different about what you're talking about is medicinal uses. What I'm talking about is recreational use.
Sure.
And
they went and made it illegal so that someone could restrict the free market happening.
However it came about, it does have long-term effects, and not just physically, not just medically. What I'm talking about is mentally, emotionally. Marijuana use.
What studies do you have that show this?
I have personal friends that are totally impaired mentally.
I think it just enhances. If you're already lazy, it's going to just keep you on the lazy path. Because there are some, I would argue, some of the most successful people on this planet are all the time users.
But what about McDonald's? We should make that illegal, because look at the effects it's having. There are so many fat people.
Not just
sorry, but
heart disease. But we watched Elon Musk smoke it on live TV.
And I say,
and you can't argue. Well, no, and I'm not arguing for it.
Yeah.
I'm just arguing that it was a stifle of freedom to enrich a private citizen that stuck with us forever and done irreparable harm to our nation. How many families were torn up from inner cities because of that law? How much damage on scientific research into medical aid has been damaged because of that law? And right now they're starting to loosen it up, and I promise you that when Utah loosens it up, it's because a pharmaceutical company who has ties with the church has investments to where they'll take that over and profit from it.
Well, whether that's true or not,
on
I
that
can't
day,
speculate.
because right now the church owns
welcome
property.
to the conspiracy theory.
No, this is fact. The church owns property north of Rachel, Nevada, right? Farm property.
Okay.
And the minute Nevada made it legal, guess what church farm property started growing?
What's that?
Marijuana.
I was going to guess sugar.
Did they get a permit?
Yeah, they've been farming there forever. But the minute the church, who's all big on, no, we're going to stop it in our state. But the minute they can profit from it, they'll turn around and do that.
Yeah, if there's a permit, God looks more favorably upon it.
But no, this isn't conspiracy theory. This is just what
this is just the way the world works, Jared. Just don't breathe it in my face if it's legalized. Otherwise, I'm like,
so
go to
define
jail.
breathing it in your face.
So marijuana use, recreational use, is not a victimless crime.
Okay, break it down for me.
So I have seen personally people destroy their lives because of what they would say was medicinal use.
Is that them making a victim, or is that them victimizing themselves? Because we see the same thing at McDonald's. We see the same thing on television.
Okay, but that doesn't mute the point that...
Should we outlaw television?
What I'm saying is, well, that is what I do in my own home. My kids, they do have limited screen time. So I agree with you there. But as far as limiting it and restricting it as a government level, you'd have to go to California to find something like that. You know, they're not too far off. They limit and restrict everything out there.
No, you'd have to go to China where they're actually limiting and restricting that stuff today.
That's not too far off from California. I don't agree with that. But when it comes to something that's already restricted, it's a controlled substance. I support that as our cultural norm, to not change it, from the standpoint,
even if it was,
that it is not a victimless crime. There are far too many children.
Do you think it was victimless making it criminal?
If what you told me is true, again, I'd have to look into it.
Look into it.
If what you said was true, it's I don't like that. You know, if it's to benefit paper farmers, you know, tree farmers, in order to make paper instead of using hemp, using trees, you know, I would get that. There is economic warfare that happens around us all the time. That's just how it is. But when it comes to medical use for marijuana versus recreational use, I would say recreational use has damaged far too many lives.
I don't know one.
That's just...
I don't know one.
Well, if I could give you...
How many ODs has marijuana cost?
No, I'm not talking about ODs.
Okay, go on.
I'm talking about children who no longer have functioning parents. I'm talking about...
And all they use is marijuana.
No. It's the mentality that's behind it. And so if I could
elaborate the mentality, because you're blaming it on marijuana, and then there's other stuff.
Sure.
So what's the other stuff? The parents are naturally dog shit?
No.
Because you're blaming it on marijuana.
That could very well be.
Or do they have other substances they use, such as the substances that knock someone out and make them unfunctioning for hours? Or even just alcohol? Because if I had to grade, would I rather have a society that had recreational alcohol use or recreational marijuana use? I've been around both, and I'm not a user. I don't smoke marijuana, but I would rather have the instance where I'm around people that smoke marijuana. A lot less violence happens, a lot less of those acute actions happen under marijuana, yet alcohol's legal.
Well, if that were the only point and the only thing to consider, if it would make society better, I'd say I'd be all for it. But there's a lot more to it.
But is your gradient on your theological stance, or would your gradient be on looking at society as a whole?
Okay, if I could speak to that real quick, because I'll answer it. It is a very personal question, but I've got a unique answer, I think, that you'll like. When I make a decision, I make it based on who I am as an individual. I'm a very independent person. I consider other people's opinions. I take my life's experiences and I compare it to life's experiences of others, and I try to make my best choice. Now, whether it comes from a theological sense, I think that's kept me good in some points, especially when I was younger. But as I grew older, I realized that there are reasons behind this, not just because, hey, do this or else, or do this and this will happen. It was, I'll get a little more personal. Substance abuse has destroyed my family.
Okay, what substance?
marijuana being one of them.
What was marijuana like a cigarette? No,
So
what
I'll
I'm
be-
saying is the marijuana use like a cigarette, or is because
Or an edible?
Well, if I could,
no, here's
I'll
what
answer
I
your
want to argue,
question.
because if you're going to toss heroin in the same batch,
Mm-hmm.
that changes. Those two are so vastly different.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to toss cocaine in there, if you're going to toss crack cocaine
Mm-hmm.
and powder cocaine in the same batch, those two are vastly different on the way they chemically affect your body.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference. Whereas marijuana, to me, again, I have no dog in this fight for personal use.
Yeah, sure.
I have a dog in this fight for freedom.
Okay. No,
I
get it.
am 100% for liberty. That's the only thing I give a shit about in this world.
Sometimes people need help because they can't control
Sure,
themselves.
sure, they need help. We should honestly, once in a while, take the lazy person and chain his ass to a shovel, right? That's someone needing help. Or we should take the woman who tends to have more babies than she can support without getting married and sew her legs shut. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
So how far do you go with this? Because families have been torn apart because of this.
I'm not one,
Because we have had young men grow up in the inner city, and we're seeing the effects of that.
Yeah, it's true. There's no easy answer.
Murder is a different way to gradient this whole subject.
So there's no easy answer to any of those points that you brought up, any of those subjects, and they're all different subjects. They may interlock, overlap, but they all are different subjects.
The studies are out on marijuana.
With
The studies are out. They're completely out. We've got studies from around the world out on them. There is not a logical doctor right now that would argue against me on this.
okay, I'll take your word on that. You know, we have you have your opinion on the matter. And
I'm not dragging into opinion. Again,
okay.
this is something I've studied.
Okay.
Well, here.
And
My family too has been destroyed by marijuana. A lot of my friends have been destroyed by marijuana. I guess the question is, if I were in charge,
How do you mean destroyed by
they're
marijuana?
just retarded. They're slower.
Did they
they're
kick
paranoid.
off retarded?
Trust me, they're a lot mentally more deficient now than they used to be. But would I want to use violence on them to make them stop the destruction that they impose upon themselves? Or would I be more humane to allow them to continue on the path that they've chosen for themselves? And it's like it's a spiritual fork in your moral soul, I suppose. Because with the violence option, maybe you can save them. If we just use a little violence on them now, maybe you can save them.
Chain them to, and I'm sorry if I get rambunctious about this, but this is something I'm fully committed to liberty, and the ODs on marijuana in history is zero. Can McDonald's say the same thing?
Yeah.
Can Dr. Pepper say the same
You mentioned
thing?
ODs earlier, and that's not the problem. You can't, as far as I know,
But
you
okay,
can't OD.
what-
It's like melatonin, though. You can't OD on melatonin.
You can't.
But if you overuse it over and over, it can actually stop the body from producing
Yeah,
melatonin naturally.
it interrupts your. It
So,
can interrupt your sleep
I'm
cycle.
not talking about actually, it's not, don't take the extreme and exaggerate and say, hey, it doesn't cause death, so therefore it's not bad.
Okay, so but then the government or you takes the extreme and says we're going to outlaw with use of force, with violence of action. We're going to outlaw the recreational use of that. And if you're caught with that, we're going to, let's follow the thought process, murder you. That's what the government laws are,
Which has
is murder
and
at the end.
can happen. Yeah.
Well, but that's what they are. You follow them down. If the guy doesn't listen to the commands on the way, doesn't pay the fine, the end of that line is murder via government.
After many choices.
Sure. But all down that line, which is criminal. To me, it sits right there with asset forfeiture and rape.
Okay. Government is, what did Washington say? It's a fire. It's like fire. It's a fearful servant.
No, if we're going to do it
or,
against someone who grew marijuana and actually wrote letters back and forth to Thomas Jefferson, let's do what Stalin said. government is force.
It is. No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Government is violence.
But yeah, okay. No, we're not arguing that. No, I see that. It's, you have coercion, you have penalties, right? You have, it's government is not intended to be your best friend, though. A lot of things have changed over the decades and centuries and even millennia. Government used to be the most brutal force on the planet.
Sure.
Nowadays, we have government for the people, or of the people, by the people, and for the people.
I like to refer to it as the
I would like to
soft
think
kinder
so.
machine gun
Really? We
hand.
have
I would like to think so.
We have that
because
when?
here I am. So let me go back to my
Where?
family's.
When?
Okay.
Thomas Jefferson told us the government that governs best governs least.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. The smaller the government, the better. I
The
agree.
smaller the laws. How many pages is in our Utah law code?
Quite a bit. And I would say that most of them are there for a reason. I'm one that believes that most stop signs could be yield signs.
Sure.
80% of stop signs, I would just say. Just going with the normal 80-20
Sure. I don't know
rule.
how that compiles with a law code that you could be breaking a law right now and wouldn't even know it.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't think I'm breaking a law right now.
I'm sure we are.
But you don't know
maybe.
it.
Yeah.
But you don't know it. You
Maybe.
don't know if you are or not.
Maybe.
We had that conversation
go
last
back.
Just how thick our law book is, the percentages, the odds are against you on that.
Yeah, they are. But
At
I
every
live,
minute of your day, the laws are against you that force of violence could be used against you for something you didn't even know you were doing wrong.
I love where this has gone. I love getting into the theory behind government and so on, and the philosophy of what government is and what it should be and what it has been.
But it has been 2 hours.
Yeah,
No, has it really? Hasn't
Yeah.
seemed that long.
And I don't know if we can keep you on that long, Whit.
I want to go back to marijuana real quick. And I just want to say my final words on it. I have seen it destroy lives. It might not be the only
I've
force.
never seen marijuana alone destroy anyone's life.
It's really it's not a victimless crime. There are a lot of victims.
I
when it
don't
comes
consider self-harm a victim.
I think, well,
And then you would have to also judge, would that person be, like, say, parenting things? Would that person have been a piece of shit with or without it?
a person, and marijuana doesn't always help, though. That's the thing.
Oh,
If you,
yeah, but neither does this. If a person's a piece of shit and they get a sugar habit,
yeah,
and then they're going to pass that sugar habit onto their child as well.
Yeah.
So then we got childhood heart issues. We got, obese problems in youth,
Okay.
things like that.
That's fine.
So
no, I'll give it to you. We can say you won on the marijuana subject. I'm just telling you from personal experience that I don't think that opening up controlled substances and saying, okay, everybody have at it, I don't think that's the answer.
you know what's funny?
I think medicinally, there's a very good and very strong argument there.
I bought
but
marijuana one time in
recreational
my
use,
life.
don't say that
I
on
can't
TV.
see it.
No, I bought it one time in my life, and not for me, but it was for someone suffering from cancer. The one time I bought marijuana in my whole life, 47, the one time I purchased it in my whole life, committed a full-on crime, wasn't even medically legal, and I bought it to aid someone who was fighting cancer.
But you brought it back to the medical argument, though. The medical
But
argument is not the same as the
The argument
recreational.
is it wasn't even medically legal then.
And
The argument
That
is
is
that
a good
I committed a
argument.
super crime. But no.
it's a good argument.
Why was it medically illegal though?
I'm not going to answer for
Why
that.
was it
I don't know.
scheduled? Do you know what the scheduling is?
Yeah.
The scheduling of drugs?
Yeah.
Cocaine's a Schedule 4, right? Marijuana is a Schedule 1. The extreme can't be prescribed under any circumstance except for 8 people. The United States left room for 8 people to be prescribed marijuana.
And I bet none of them was the paper farmer.
No, that was William Randolph Hearst. No, look it up. Look up William Randolph Hearst.
Okay.
He was good friends with what's the guy's name? Armitage. He was our head of the Justice Department at the time. And
So who are the 8 people,
Got it.
Jared? Who are the 8 people?
no, it was just 8 people. I don't know. They got like exemptions. They did a whole show on it, a whole documentary on it.
Okay.
8 people prior to, they were legal to have it. And the one guy, he would light up right on the side of the street, and the police would pull up, and he'd show them this weird piece of paper, and they were like, geez, what is this? But yeah, but no, it's a ridiculous thing that a culture that first president, third president, all of them, it was a part of their culture. It was a part of the culture until the mid 1900s.
Okay.
And now it has changed to where a Republican who's supposed to be about free markets and liberties now still believes, because culturally it's ingrained in him, which I used to be in your shoes.
It's like a fanny pack. I mean, nobody wants to wear a fanny pack, but they're the most useful things that we could have ever invented.
But anyways, let's finish off these last comments.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, everyone.
He gets emotional.
I'm going to get sidetracked every show on something.
Poor Whit.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right.
No, it's
You take it
good.
well, dude.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just have to agree to disagree. And yeah, it is. It's culturally ingrained in us to believe in certain things are bad for us, and but it's hard. It's hard to get over the fact that as human beings, would my neighbor really be willing to use force against me because I do this?
Okay. So roads are a city expense in less unincorporated areas or UDOT.
Sure.
Okay. Another reason for businesses to come to small cities and for locals to shop local. Yeah, and that's another thing. We do need to shop local as much as we can, and that's just a personal, you need to say, look, and more than shopping local is you need to find that store that's owned locally.
And just to reiterate that, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If the government wants to promote us to shop locally, then they need to use local contractors when they build our police stations.
Ooh, boy, that's
Well, and here's another thing to consider too. If we have those high-paying jobs that come into the valley, then service-oriented businesses follow soon after.
the big stuff comes in.
What happens when somebody starts a new business out here? Traditionally speaking, it happens more often than not that a restaurant will open up, per se, just as an example.
What do we lose if we get a Red Lobster per se? And what business do the other restaurants lose?
Well, how long until they close up shop or sell to another restaurant? That's
another big.
Because the demand is not here.
Yeah.
We have a lot of good entrepreneurially minded people out here in this valley. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of good people that want to pursue their dreams economically. They want something to do. They want to create a business and pursue that dream. But the demand just isn't here. And over we see businesses that start up and then they don't have the demand to stay afloat. So you bring in the high-paying jobs, the high wages, people stop commuting, and then entrepreneurs are able to pursue their dreams. Not just the big shops like a Red Lobster, right? We're talking, I would like to see more entrepreneurial spirit that actually comes from this.
Like Tooele lobster. Right? Yeah. Something original.
There we go.
Gransville Reservoir Crawdad. Anyways, all right. Okay. Holly, LOL, State of Utah. Okay. I think it's really cool that Whit made the trip to listen to the mayor of Wendover. I've had a town hall there, and their situation is really tough. Yeah, and it is awesome that Whit took that. If he's going to manage that area, go out there, show us support, get to know him. I think that is outstanding.
And if I could point out, it's, for me, it's more about the people instead of politics. They don't even have a county delegate. When I went out there, it wasn't to try to, win a vote. It was to actually talk to the people out there. Interestingly enough, coincidentally, on their agenda for last night, was whether or not they should rejoin COG. And COG, for those that don't know, it's an acronym for Council of Governments. And so every municipality in the county, we all have a certain amount of votes and on COG, and it's a way for all of us to get together, let our voices be heard, and make decisions together. Wendover hasn't participated, I think, since 2016. And so a lot of my purpose out there was just to meet people. And then all of a sudden this is on their agenda. And then during their city council, they're a little more lax in the way that they do things there. And they, in the middle of city council, the mayor turned to me and he said, Whit, what do you think about this? And here I am, still processing things in my mind, how this should work out. And it just came hey, this program is, or this institution is put together for each of us to share our own voice. If Wendover wants to have a voice, then Wendover should participate in it. I mean, it's just that simple.
What was the reason for not participating in it?
Well,
is there a cost associated?
Well, driving.
Yeah.
It's a trip out here.
An hour and a half drive out to
it's the time
go
behind
through a
it.
bureaucratic meeting and an hour and a half drive back.
And they have to work.
Especially if
you have to work and do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially if you feel like you don't even really have a voice. You might have one voice and one vote from Wendover competing against all of the voices that are out here from this valley. And that's a part of the frustration too.
If you hit a lost cause argument.
Right.
Yeah.
But they brought up a good point during their city council. We have more incorporations now, more that would feel more the ways that they do about certain issues. And so that was mentioned by one of those in attendance. And but when the mayor turned to me and asked for my opinion, it was just strictly that. Hey, look, if you want to get over this feeling of being forgotten or this just this disconnect, you need to make those steps forward as well. And somebody asked the question, well, what about Tooele County? What are they doing? And I said, well, I'm here. I mean, it's huge. Just letting them know that they're being heard. I mean, that goes very far.
And there's no delegate out there to vote for you. You went out there anyway, because it's your territory. Because
they're in District 5.
I'm wondering if maybe virtually you tried to bring Wendover into every county meeting.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, I was going to suggest that too.
Just say, hey, virtually, why don't you take one of your city councilmen or the mayor? You guys all take turns, and when we have a county meeting, you sit in and fill us in on what's going on out there, just so you feel a part of it and you can voice thoughts, or maybe even what's going on, and because I'm pretty sure the mayor half the time doesn't know what the county has going on.
Yeah, and that's a valid point, because there is that distance that's there. I would even throw in some of the other areas of the county. Vernon.
Oh yeah.
For me personally, I believe that it's better to meet in person. But for those sorts of situations, it would be understandable to make
it would be better to meet in person, but
yeah,
they're the one that has to make all that sacrifice to commit to that meet in person. So if you offer the ease to them, so you just, one of the guys, dude, I would do it like they do on the TV shows. I'd get an iPad, put it on the back of a chair, put a fate suit jacket over it, and have their face there so that they're sitting in the meeting with you. Seriously. Make it simple and stupid.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right, let's hurry up and kill the rest of these. I think, okay, yes. We should incentivize movie and commercial productions again. We used to be a huge place for filming, but the state raised prices that drove the industry out. Yeah, and I heard that there was a bill that Kevin Costner was trying to push on this last go-around to do that.
They want tax incentives. That's what they want.
They do. And
that's what they follow.
And, it sounds knee-jerk reaction is, why do they get something special? But then again, I remember who I am, and anytime we can stop paying taxes, I'm all for it. So let's do it, Holly.
The last one that I recall was Pirates of the Caribbean. One of the opening scenes on one of their
on the Salt Flats.
Yeah. Number 3. That happened out here.
Yeah.
But I was even thinking about that as I was looking at the museum. Funds could be used for even out there in Wendover.
Bring in a historical World War II melodrama. I'm thinking that that Aerosmith lead singer's wife, and I don't know what's the guy's name that played Batman last. Bring them out, have them make out on the airstrip, and call it a movie. Boom. Okay. Da, 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 da. Okay. Even inhaling from a distance could impair you, and law enforcement had no way of being able to test a driver for drivers impaired by pot.
Please don't bring marijuana up
Except-
again. That was a comment from a while ago.
Except in their actions. That's
All right, we'll fast forward to the mayor. We agree to disagree on issues. We'll just got to accept it.
okay. Company insurances wouldn't cover businesses after the law changed. It was legal, but a liability in certain workplaces. That is true. There was a confusing area. Same with banking. The banking got real weird there. It kind of showed you that banks aren't a free market. Until the federal government makes it legal, states that are taking risks by crossing borders selling it. Yeah, and that's true. But just when Colorado legalized, just the one state legalized it, it killed the cartel's income by like 38%.
I think they're still alive and well.
Well, and that
They're running
they run the
fentanyl now. Yeah.
No, you know what their big profit is? I'll tell you in a
I
minute.
don't want to know.
When the other states did it, knocked them down by 60%. So the
Okay.
cartels went into one thing that's their kind of big cash crop, and it's become violent. Avocados.
Yeah.
I shit you not.
Yep.
We just stopped the importation of avocados a few months ago.
For that
federally.
reason. Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, besides the cartels were growing it on this side of the border. That's a lot of people didn't understand that. But there's a whole task force in the BLM to fight cartel marijuana grows around the nation.
That's too bad.
It's
I love
crazy.
avocados.
No, the marijuana side.
Okay.
But the avocados, they moved into that market. It's a crazy story. They moved in and like literally strong-armed the farms and took them over. Standing avocado farms went in and strong-armed.
California farms or Mexican farms?
Mostly Mexican.
Yeah.
To deal with a big farm like that that's out in the open, you'd have to do it in a failed state that's failed because of our policies.
No Second Amendment?
So again, which is it, California or Mexico?
Mexifornia?
What do you mean?
You said a failed state. I was just seeking clarification.
You're right. I was talking state
Okay.
as in the nominal word of state, not how we previously used it prior to
I thought it
Civil
was
War.
funny, Whit.
Thank you.
Yeah. No,
Thank
that
you.
was good.
Appreciate that.
Okay, until the federal Patsy Reed says neither are pills. Stop with that. Neither are pills. Okay. You would see less opiate overdosing. Yes. Wood is on another level. He's my neighbor. It's insane.
Hey, Patsy, how's it going?
Yeah. Joshua Reed. But prescription pills are okay. All right. Legalization of recreational pot totally changed Vegas. You can't have it too close to people that are allergic or in close quarters. It will affect another person, even get them high against their consent.
And I totally agree that stuff, you got to keep it in your house and you got to keep it to yourself. You can't expose other people to it.
Why waste
Otherwise it's
taxpayers'
not
money
legal.
on something that is
Or shouldn't
not
be.
worse than alcohol? Stop prohibition now.
Hey, Josh.
Until the federal that they're both Reeds. We got to
Yeah, that's Josh and Patsy.
All
They're
right.
neighbors of mine.
Until the federal government makes it
He's
legal.
a veteran too.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of us veterans hanging around here. Huh?
Yes.
What was your MOS?
31 Sierra at the time. It's now been changed to 25 Sierra. That was 20 years ago. So
What's that, logistics?
No, it was satellite communications.
SATCOM. Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't
Yeah.
got com, you ain't got nothing.
Until
Yeah.
the federal government makes it legal, pharmaceutical companies.
No wonder you
can't
made your own
test and
webpage.
prescribe the proper doses for individual and patient needs. Pills that are prescribed that y'all are okay with are the real problems. You can't OD on weed. Don't vote for him. That's your neighbor.
That's too bad.
Yeah. He's a good guy. You gotta, but he's correct on almost everything else. You know, he's been brainwashed.
Even
It's
marijuana.
okay.
You know what? Whit doesn't have any control over the marijuana laws, so you don't have to worry about that.
That is true. This candidate wouldn't be on the state legislature to control this issue. Our state legislature makes a decision to legalize or not, even when the state votes for it and they decide to totally against what the popular voted for. Even though we are not a democracy, and I do not like democracies, I still think that they didn't give a preponderance of weight to what the populace wanted. But that's
the elders know best, Jared.
The elders know best. Anyways, Whit is running for county council. Oh wait,
that's a good
something
point.
Else.
That's a good point. You know, as we're sitting here talking about, you know, theory and so on, political theory. You know, I love talking about political theory. I'm not going to shut it down.
Oh yeah,
I love it. Absolutely love it. We're having a human-to-human discussion here.
You're going to go away from here and you're going to research some of the stuff I told you.
I hope you're going to come back,
and I'm still going to be right.
Dude, I promise you on this one. I promise you on this one.
You are right that marijuana impairs people and it turns them retarded. Yes, I said the retard word.
It's not good for families.
But
sure.
Again,
medically, the medical argument is a valid argument.
So does it destroy families if the person's suffering?
Is the right thing to do is to throw people in jail for it, though?
And is that good for families? And which one would you argue has had the most long-term negative effects? And that's another thing you got to weigh, because you're arguing a gradient that you have no evidence to the other side with.
Okay. I do have personal experience.
Sure, but was marijuana the only thing used?
I would say no.
Bingo. I would argue you need to first research the effects of the other things used.
Okay.
All right. Legalize or not, only the people can get it on the ballot. Whit is running. And honestly, my thing is all liberty. It's all I care about. Make marijuana legal tomorrow. I'm still not going to use it. I don't care to use it. I don't like it.
Just don't make it legal in one place like Tooele, where everyone will flock to us. That is what I would be totally against. If they said like, okay, we're going to make it legal, but only in Tooele.
Wait a second.
Oh no!
Imagine the tax revenue we could bring in.
I don't care.
Look at what it did to Colorado. Oh, Whit, you are something else. This coming from the man who kicked his kid out of the house. What?
Oh, we got a story
for not cleaning his room. Get real. Oh, I'll finish it. That's interesting. Man. Again, hello, Patsy. That's yeah. Let the personal attacks begin, I guess.
Do you want to defend yourself there, Whit?
I don't think I need to.
I want to
offer anything to that.
Don't let his stance on marijuana be the deciding factor for whether you would vote for him or not. You got to look at his overall stance. One, as a county councilman, he would have no objective decision on how marijuana would be treated in this state. That's a state legislature level. And also then it'd have to pass through the governor unless the legislature weighed heavy enough. As a county councilman, he's totally logical. One, his efforts to go out to Wendover, I think, are very robust and very, I don't know, chivalrous, really, when you look at it. Wendover's a forgotten place, and he took the effort to go out there. Also, his thoughts on trying to bring in growth and trying to do it in a way that's healthy for the standing community. Those are all positive things. So don't judge him and don't be angry at him for the marijuana thing. I know I argued him passionately, but it didn't change my mind about who he was. It's just me explaining to two people here that they are wrong, and neither of them has ever dug into the research. My research started when, as a law enforcement officer, I was sent to the DEA drug interdiction school. And that's where my road to this thought process started, on the exact other side.
I respect that. That's good.
And it was a DEA doctor that was there to teach us who started me on this path.
Gotcha. I was told I was never wrong.
But if I could say something as far as personal attacks go, you know, I love it how you said that we might disagree on something, but yet we could still walk away friends, at least on friendly terms.
Yes.
As far as personal attacks from individuals, you know, I really don't put a lot of stock into it, you know, especially when, you know, in this particular situation, and this is all I'm going to say to it, well, not situation, but to this individual, I would say that there are a lot of things that could be said about a lot of different people, and it takes a higher character to look for the good in a person instead of trying to pick something apart and hurt somebody, whether true or not true. And in this case, I would say not true. So I don't even know what she's referring to. I do know that there's personal differences there. It goes back to an incident between children that happened, but that was taken care of at the school level, and she walked away pretty bitter about that. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to try to defame somebody. I would rather look for the good in somebody.
I think this shows that, all right, let's take this scenario. You're giving, let's say a parent kicks their kid out of the house for the night for keeping a sloppy room and not picking it up because he asked him to. First of all, that shows that there's consequences for your actions. You're staying in someone's house and you're asked to take care of your room. Yeah, go play outside for a while if you can't listen and provide a little help for the family in keeping your room clean. I think that shows good parenting if a parent's willing to give a kid some consequences for their actions.
Well, I think that's kind of extreme, and a parent that would do something like that, I don't know.
I've made kids go play outside for the day because they disobey or something like that.
Hey, I grew up in the damn 80s. We got kicked out of the house every morning. So I'm not kidding. That was, you get the hell out of my house. You're bugging me.
Let me talk to parenting real quick. Love and Logic by Jim Fay.
I have heard of the book, have not read it.
Well, it's not just a book, it's a lecture series.
Okay.
And not just a lecture series. Jim Fay and his son, I forget his name now, but ironically, it had the same last name for some reason, but they toured the country together, and he was just, you look up their credentials. He was he was a superintendent. He was a principal at one point. He was great when it comes to his profession as a psychologist. He was a therapist of some sort. But anyway, he came up with this over his years of experience and training. He came up with this Love and Logic. And Love and Logic, Jim Fay, they're not paying me to say this. It's just something that my wife and I have used to raise our children. It is to help a child accept their consequences, but we use allowance is what we use. So they get, and I borrow directly from Jim Fay. I give my kids an allowance per week, depending on what their age is. And then if their room isn't clean or if they forgot to do the dishes, whatever their chore is for that week, I deduct it. So we'll do it as the parents, and then we'll deduct it from their allowance, so they don't get their treat money or their spending money or their college fund. One of my sons, my middle son, he's really motivated to save money up for college, and that just shows the differences between the kids. My youngest, who's 9 right now, he loves getting his money so that he can buy vending machine snack items when he's at robotics club. And I let them make their own choice. And then I just correct along the way, but we use an allowance to motivate.
No,
I think that's a great idea.
I think any parenting advice you can give, listen to them all. I think a child's also depend on what type of punishment systems you need to set up too, because children are different.
Yeah.
Some children that may reflect on them, and some children it may not, but it's all good thing. Where was we at? Okay, because of the things he said. All right. It looks like they should use Zoom to bring them in. I think we're talking about
the Wendover
getting
Council.
the outside. That'd be sweet if you got like iPads or even the Amazon numbers that are cheaper, and just put it on a chair back and throw a coat over it like they were there and get them involved. I think that'd be really, a way to get them involved without that. Or, well, I don't know if you could do that, but I was going to say one counselor go out and hold the meeting virtually with the other counselors, but they're in another location. But I think where the counselors are there to tackle council subjects, they should all try to be in the same area. Our county council offers a Zoom option for everyone. And that may just be, information needs to get out on that. Independence was filmed out there too. Yes, it was. I remember Bart Hamataki, one of our police officers when I was a kid growing up, was in that show. You can see him.
That's with Will Smith, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see him holding up an MP5 in the movie.
Didn't he slap an alien?
Will Smith, he did.
He has anger issues, that guy.
Are you trying to say that if you've got a slap that's written into a script, it's the same as a slap for other reasons? Or maybe they were both. But anyways, everyone, thanks for joining us. Whit, thank you for coming on. Thank you for the lively discussion towards the end.
Of course.
I
appreciate it.
I implore you to honestly go look the stuff up.
Okay. I'm the type that I'll look. Yeah. I'll look into a subject.
Yeah, you really should. And again, my path towards looking at this started on a very eclectic journey. And it's when I was going through a drug interdiction course, a 2-week course held by the DEA.
I love you, Holly. You're so funny.
When men slap other men, it's hilarious. That is
right.
true.
She's right.
That is a good point.
It is so silly watching men slap each other.
It would have been awesome, though, if Will Smith would have been wearing gloves and would have went up there and stood in front of him and one finger at a time peeled it off and did the old glove slap on him. Like the old days of the romantic days of yore.
They'd have to have a duel afterward, though.
Dude, hey.
Should we bring back duels?
Yes.
Is that a thing? Does that violate the non-aggression principle?
If both people voluntarily do it, no.
Is that under mutual combat? Does that qualify for mutual combat?
Yeah, I mean, it's voluntary. It's voluntarily done. I mean,
unlike someone breathing marijuana in my face. Yeah, I think that's voluntary.
Well, and that's the argument. How far away? How close is too close? How far away is acceptable?
See, I mean, maybe I was right then, Jared.
No, that's the question. Because people break dust.
All right, I can't stir that pot more.
No,
it's too.
I'm not going down that road again.
I was gonna say that you were gonna say the glove thing or the glove thing. It'd be awesome. I mean, a slow peel off pinky, ring finger, say hi to everyone else finger, pointer finger, thumb. Yeah, that would have been awesome. All right, thanks for joining us, Miss Reed. I hope you don't let your personal issues cloud your political issues when it comes for the county. Maybe politically you wouldn't align, you wouldn't vote for him, but if you do have political issues, remember, you should always try to separate personal ideals from politics, because you don't want to let emotions drive politics, or you end up where we are now nationally. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.